Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and on this show, ambitious women learn how to create a life they're obsessed with, without the hustle, without the grind, without torturing ourselves, and without following anybody else's rules. This podcast is all about creating our own rules, owning our identity as creator, and hitting every single goal we set for ourselves. Together, we're redefining success on our terms and building lives that look as good as they feel. Let's dive in. What do you do when the work isn't working for you? Welcome back to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and this one is going to be good because it is what every single person is thinking. I have heard about this work. I have read about intentional reality creation. I have studied manifestation. Maybe I have worked with a mindset coach, hired 2, 3, or 4, and it didn't work for me, or it's not working for me. What do I do? And I'm going to answer that question for you throughout this episode. But the first thing that I want to tell you is that it's not your fault. And I don't say this in a let you off the hook kind of way, but in a way that you have been taught something different your entire life. And most of you listening to this are probably in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, all the way up to your 60s, and your entire life, you have been taught one specific way to create your reality. And that specific way that you were taught is based upon where you were raised, who you were raised by, demographically, geographically, the socioeconomics of your family. You were taught a very specific story of this is how life works. And now you are learning, or maybe you've learned in the past, that there is a different way and that maybe we weren't given all of the information and maybe it doesn't have to be so damn hard. And you're really excited about that because that sounds amazing. But there's a part of your brain that's like, I don't know if I believe this. So the first thing I want you to do in this process is give yourself a little bit of grace. If you have spent 40, 50, 60 years of your life believing that the way to achieve your goals is through hard work, through suffering, through sacrifice, of course, you are challenged by the idea of you don't have to do any of that. And you can absolutely positively have everything you want and more, but you have to be willing to let go of the old story. So the first thing I need you to do is give yourself a whole lot of grace, because that programming that is running in the background, completely unconscious, is what is driving you. The work that I do with my clients is teach you how to no longer run on the unconscious program, set a new program by consciously creating your reality, right? That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to dig into in this episode today. But, you have been taught to do this. So the first thing I want you to do is say, okay, it makes sense, but transformation begins with awareness, not self-blame. So if you're mad, angry, frustrated, being not very nice to yourself because it's not working for you, telling yourself there's something wrong with you, it must be you, then yeah, we need to let go of that. We need to absolutely positively let go of that. Fair? If you can let go of the blame and the self-judgment, I can tell you how to get unstuck. The first thing that we have to talk about is ownership. Ownership. You have to, in the words of my mentor, Stacey Barenfuss, own your ownership. And what I mean by that is you are the creator of your reality, period, end of. So the things in your life, good, bad, or otherwise, were all created by you. They were created by your beliefs. They were created by your thoughts, by your feelings, and by your actions. So you created them and you have to own that, even if it's not favorable. Because I think another thing that trips a lot of people up is we really like to take ownership of creating the money and the clients and the business and the exciting things, the things we're pumped about, but we don't want to take ownership of the shitty things, right? We don't want to take ownership of the fact that we didn't believe in ourselves, that we told ourselves an unfavorable story, that we told ourselves we couldn't have it, that we told ourselves that we weren't good enough, that we allow people into our lives who aren't very kind to us, right? Like that is a tough pill to swallow, and I understand. But again, this is where the grace comes in, because the reason why you allowed those things to happen is because you didn't know any better. But now you know. I got to tell you that now you know, and now you know you're making a choice. That's a tough one, right? Now that you know that you are the creator of your reality and everything good, bad, or ugly is created by your thoughts, feelings, and actions, you are now responsible. So if there are things in your life that are not favorable at this point, you are choosing them. You are choosing them by continuing to give them your attention. You are choosing them by continuing to give them your thoughts. You are choosing them by continuing to act like you are a victim. And gosh, that's hard. Nobody wants to be called a victim, right? I know that victim consciousness, it used to make me feel a really weird way. I don't like the word victim at all. But the truth of the matter is, if you're not owning your ownership, if you're not willing to say, I created all of this shit, then the world's happening to you. Then you are a victim. Then you have no choice. And I don't like that. So I'm willing to own the parts of my story where I was playing victim so that I can put myself back in the identity of creator. But the first step in the process, once we give ourselves a little bit of grace, is owning our ownership, is realizing that I am responsible, because when we take that responsibility, when we take back that power, then we can start using it in a different way, right? We can start now driving our energy in a different direction. But if we're not willing to take ownership of all of it, good, bad, or ugly, we're going to have a hard time just creating the good things, right? So I think that's a really important part of the conversation because, again, you see a lot of content where people are celebrating the good things, but nobody says, yeah, and I also created that shitty relationship. And I also created that friendship where that person was an asshole to me. Or I also created that situation where that boss wasn't very nice to me. Or I also created that situation where my business didn't thrive, because that doesn't feel good. But the truth of the matter is, if you're not willing to look the truth in the face, you're going to have a hard time changing it. And again, this is not me shaming you. This is me being really honest with you because I had this experience. If you've been following me for any amount of times, you have heard my story that I could have taught you a master class on intentional reality creation and manifestation long before I ever, actually manifested anything, because I love to listen. I love to consume. Give me the podcast, give me the books, give me all of the short form video content, right? Like I fundamentally, intellectually understood the concepts, but I wasn't owning my ownership, right? I was just learning a topic. And there's a difference between learning a topic and actually implementing what you learn and actually embodying the identity of creator. And I think that is what is missing for a lot of us, is we intellectually understand the concepts because of the content that we have consumed and the work that we have done, but we're not actually embodying it. We're not actually owning our own ownership, our own power, good, bad, and otherwise. And so that's creating a gap, right? You're creating a level of separation between identity of creator, person who creates their reality, and the layer of, oh, here's poor me, the person who this happened to me, right? And again, one of you out there is thinking something really tragic happened to my life, Ryan, and I promise you I didn't create it. And again, I know that you did not consciously create it, but there is a part of you that was in alignment with that thing happening at the time that it happened. And that sucks. But you also have to remember that you don't create for other people, right? You don't create for other people. So if something happened to somebody else in your life, again, you didn't create that. Other people create for themselves. I just wanted to cover that because I think that's an important step here. So we have to own our ownership, and then we have to realize the foundation of intentional reality creation is identity. So the question you have to ask yourself again is, who are you being? When I think of my business doesn't look the way I want it to, what identity are you wearing? I'm having a hard time signing clients. I'm having a hard time making money. I'm having a hard time losing weight. My relationships aren't healthy. Who are you being in those moments? Because again, are you being the victim? Are you being somebody who struggles? Or are you being the creator? So when you say things like, this is harder for me because this circumstance and that circumstance, or maybe this isn't meant for me, and maybe I'm on the right path, or I've been trying for so long and I don't have what I want, that must mean that I don't get it, don't deserve it, shouldn't have it, it's not for me. And again, those are all limiting identities. Those are all victim consciousness. Those are all ways of saying, I didn't create this. So again, we have to own our ownership, and then we have to realize and wear and be and embody the identity of creator. I created it. Okay. So now that we know, again, give ourselves a little bit of grace. We've talked about owning our ownership. We've talked about identity of creator. And the question you ask yourself here, guys, is if I am the creator of my reality and I can be and do and have anything, what am I doing right now? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? How am I acting? Because if you can say, I'm looking this undesirable circumstance in the face, and I'm saying, I didn't create this, I didn't do this, I'm not good enough, you're not wearing the identity of creator. You're wearing the identity of victim. You're wearing the identity of not good enough. And again, this is not coming from a place of shame. This is coming from me holding up a mirror because I have been there. So now, what is the creation equation? Okay, so we're taking ownership. We want to wear the identity of creator. What do we do now? The creation equation, whatever you want to call it, what I teach my clients is thoughts, feelings, and actions. Thoughts, feelings, and actions are the three most creative things we have. And for most of us, the biggest challenge is in our thoughts, right? Our biggest challenge is in our thoughts because we are constantly thinking about why we don't have it, right? This isn't working for me. This isn't working for me. This isn't working for me. Why isn't this working for me? What am I doing wrong? That is why you don't have it, because the soundtrack in your head is telling you, I don't know what I'm doing it wrong, I'm screwing this up. So your thoughts around this work does not work for me is actually one of the big reasons why you don't have what you want, because you think that the work doesn't work. You don't believe in the work. It's one of the first things you have to sell yourself is the idea that this shit works, right? One of my favorite thoughts to think all of the time is that I'm the creator of my reality and I'm a master manifester. I must say that to myself 1,000 times a day, 1,000 times a day, in the idea of really thinking about manifestation is real. I create my reality, right? Because what I could be thinking, what I used to think all the time was, that's really great, but it doesn't work for me. That's really great, but I must be doing it wrong. That's really great, but there must be something wrong. I must have to do something else. And none of that is true. Because if you are really honest with yourself, if you think about the soundtrack that runs through your head day in and day out, It is not one of creator. It is not one that is empowered. It is one of, again, not good enough, not smart enough. It's not working. It's not working. Why don't I have it? Why hasn't it happened yet? Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How am I going to make payroll? How am I going to pay my bills? None of my clothes fit. Why am I so unhappy? Is my relationship going to make it? All these other things that are constantly rolling around in your head, those thoughts are creating. So when you think it doesn't work, I'm not good enough, I can't have it, you are literally creating that. You're literally creating that. And I think that's really important. But that also feels overwhelming because we think somewhere between, 60 and 80,000 thoughts a day, depending on what research you read, which is where the feelings come in, right? You don't have to monitor every thought. You have to pay attention to how am I feeling right now, right? Because our thoughts create our feelings. And it's a little bit easier especially when you're tuned into your body, to feel your feelings in your body, right? Because oftentimes you can realize, I don't feel very good right now. I feel pretty low energy. I feel frustrated. I feel overwhelmed. I feel stressed. I feel anxious, right? So then it's like, okay, well, I feel anxious. What was I just thinking about? Oh yeah, I was thinking about how I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I can't have it and isn't working. So of course I'm feeling anxious. And the reason why our feelings are so important in this process is because the combination of our thoughts and our feelings actually creates our vibration. Vibration creates frequency, right? So law of vibration, right? We all vibrate. We're all energetic beings. The law of attraction is the vibration we put out is the vibration we get back. This is why feelings are so important because the cocktail, if you will, if we think of this as like a chemical, I love how Abraham Hicks always talks about this in terms of, it's a chemistry equation, right? We're all chemical factories. And so it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So for some people, it's more about your thoughts. For others, it's more about your feelings. But really, it is ultimately this idea of your feelings are creating a vibration, which is then creating a frequency. And that's what you're emitting out into the world. Therefore, that is what you are getting back. So again, that feeling of stress, anxiety, worry, not good enough that you have got in your body can only bring you back more stress, anxiety, and not good enough. So we have to focus on how do we want to feel, right? I say this a lot to my clients who sometimes can't tell me, hey, because one of the first questions I ask is, what do you really want? And a lot of people don't know the answer to that. You may not know the answer to that listening right now. But so then I say, okay, let's start with how do you want it to feel? How do you want your days to feel? How do you want your life to feel? How do you want your business to feel? How do you want your relationships to feel? How do you want to feel in your body? How do you want your health to be? Because if we can find that feeling place, if we can find the feeling and practice feeling that feeling more, our life will change, right? But the problem is that most of us don't control our feelings, right? We think that our feelings, again, are happening to us or that we don't have any control over them. But that, again, is really part of the problem why the work isn't working for you is because you think, I cannot control this feeling of stress. I cannot control this feeling of anxiety. I cannot control this feeling of anger. I cannot control this feeling of frustration, but you can, right? Nobody else is in charge of your feelings but you. I teach this to my kids. It's frustrating as heck, I promise. But the truth of the matter is, you get that, hi, you're making me mad, mommy. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. You're mad. You don't like my behavior. You don't like what I'm saying. You don't like the conversation we're having, but I am not making you mad. The thoughts that you're thinking, that you're choosing to think in this moment are what are making you mad, right? So try that on for your situation, whatever you think your situation is that isn't working for you. And you think I have no control over these thoughts of stress because I need the money or I need this business to work. So I can't control the stress. You can by choosing to think different thoughts, by choosing to feel different ways, by practicing more of the feeling that you want to feel. And the reason I think that most people struggle with this so much is because it is so simple. It's so simple. Stop thinking about your problems, right? Don't think about them. Think about what you want instead. The conversation happening in your head all day long, if you merely shifted it from, it's not working. Why isn't it working? What am I doing wrong? What am I going to do if I don't figure this out? Why can't I figure this out? Why can everybody else figure this out and not me? Why am I not smart enough for this? What if I'm on the wrong path, right? Pick your poison. And then you shifted it over to how amazing it is and how excited you are and how you love watching it unfold and how you're so good at business and you're so good at making money. And you love that your body knows exactly what to do to lose weight. And you love that the more that you love yourself, the better your relationships get and how you have the most amazing friends and the most exciting life. And part of you might be thinking like, hey, this isn't true. Right, Ryan, I'm having a really hard time thinking those things to feel that way because those things aren't true. Most of the shit you think isn't true. Most of the things that you think, most of the catastrophes in your head that you are planning for are also not true. So if you're going to run around all day long thinking these thoughts and feeling these feelings, wouldn't you rather tell a more positive story? Because most of the things that you are worried about right now are also not true or have not happened yet. You're just, again, creating your own cocktail of it. Right? So if you can get to that place where you can check in with your body and say, how am I feeling right now? And what was I thinking about when I felt that feeling and get better and better and better at directing your feelings towards what you actually want to feel. That's how we get this work to work for us. But again, most people, and I hate to say this, Most people don't have the discipline to do that because it is a discipline. I have a client sometimes that tells me, Ryan, this is a lot. And I don't disagree, right? I do think that maybe there is a little bit of an oversimplification as it comes to intentional reality creation because people are like, it's just so easy, just think these thoughts, right? But the truth of the matter is, most of the thoughts that we think, depending on the research, is 90 to 95% habit. So if you have been habitually worrying and stressing about your problems, sometimes it is a lot to change your habits, right? But the way I feel it is it's a lot to live a really stressed out, anxious, shitty life. So I would rather do the work and be disciplined and have a lot of learning new habits that are going to serve me better than say, well, but this over here is a lot too, right? You guys have heard that thing, choose your hard, right? Both of them are hard, right? Controlling the 60,000 thoughts in your head, changing new habits, creating new habits. Yes, it is hard. It is also hard to have a business that suffers. It's also hard to feel like you never have enough money. It is also hard to be unwell. It is also hard to have shitty relationships. So choose your hard, choose your discipline. And again, I feel like I keep needing to say this to you because I am not shaming you in this. This is not like, hey, if I make you feel shitty enough, you'll buy something from me. This is me being really honest with you about why this isn't working because I literally did this. I did this. I did this. I knew and understood the work, and I did not discipline myself in a way to get what I wanted. And I promise you that once I started disciplining myself and realizing that if I took the same level of discipline and commitment to my thoughts and my feelings as I was taking to the doing, the action of the business, for me, that's my jam. Money is my story. You guys have heard that a lot the more you listen to the show. Money is my story. But, all the energy that I was putting towards stress and anxiety and worry and not good enough and OMG, like, okay, if I could have the discipline to focus that in a different direction. Because most of you listening right now, the problem isn't in getting you to do the work. And I'm going to talk about action here in a second, right? Isn't about getting you to take action. You have no problem taking action. The problem is that you're taking action and your energy isn't aligned. And Abraham Hicks does this all the time. She talks about it's like vacuuming, right? If you're like, oh, we've got people coming over, I'm going to vacuum the house, and you get out the vacuum and you do a great job of getting like every nook and cranny of the house, but you didn't plug it in. Right? That's what most of us are doing. I know that's what I was doing, and it's probably what you're doing if the work doesn't work for you. You're vacuuming without the vacuum plugged in to the power source being your energy, right? So if, again, you're taking action, but you're taking action with the thoughts and feelings of not good enough, stress, anxiety, OMG, this is so bad, this is so terrible, what am I going to do? And you're taking that energy into the action, that's why it's not working, because your overwhelming frequency is one of it's not working. And whatever else the feeling is underneath that, okay? So we've talked about thoughts, we've talked about feelings, now we need to talk about action, right? Because, oh, right, Ryan, I get it, I need to plug in. Well, what action should I be taking? Because again, we live in a world that is overly dependent upon action, right? We're all vacuuming the house and nobody's plugged the damn thing in. So we have a hard time thinking, or we have been taught that if you're not getting the results that you want, it is very likely the action that you're taking that is the problem. And then we go try to change the outside world instead of changing ourselves. So we're like, well, this strategy isn't working. We're going to try a new strategy. This social media platform isn't working. I'm going to try a social media platform. This form of exercise doesn't work for me. I'm going to try something else. This diet doesn't work for me. I'm going to try another one. This way of communicating with my partner doesn't work. So I'm going to try this differently. And we keep trying to change the outside world, the external things that we're doing instead of changing ourselves internally, which is why you are very likely taking so much action with such little result, because again, you're vacuuming without being plugged in. So what does action look like in an intentional reality creation journey? The way that I view action in this journey is it's aligned action. It's inspired action. Like when you are really lit up, you are aligned, you are on track, you are going after something that you are so darn excited about, nobody can stop you from acting. Nobody can stop you from acting, right? So a lot of times I talk to people, they're like, I know what to do and I just don't do it. To me, that is typically because something is out of alignment. Like I'm sitting here at the time of this recording, I'm recording this on Sunday morning in my home because the first time I recorded it recorded with no sound. So this is take 2 of this same show. But because I knew that this message was so important, there was nothing that could stop me from re-recording this show so I could release 3 episodes of the podcast for you when you first learned about the show, right? There was nothing in the world that was going to stop me, even a Sunday morning, because this was so important and so lined up and so aligned for me, right? So to me, this is aligned action. Aligned action are the ideas that pop in that most of us ignore. Right? You got an idea. Maybe you should do this. Maybe you should host this workshop. Maybe you should reach out to this person. Maybe you should be on this social media platform. Maybe you should try this type of content. Maybe you should go for a walk over here, but you ignore those things and you say, no, I'm going to keep torturing myself over here doing this thing that I hate. right? That's why most people struggle with the action process of this, because you are trying to follow somebody else's blueprint, somebody else's strategy, somebody else's guide, and it's not aligned to you, right? I always use the example of live launching. And if you don't know what live launching is a way of showing up live with your audience for a certain number of days and meant to educate and inspire and connect. And then you pitch your services at the end, right? I mean, I live launched my face off, guys, to the tune of like literally $1 million. Okay. Live launching worked for me for a long, long time. Now, live launching is no longer aligned. Like, that's not a way that I want to grow a business. So live launching as a strategy is extremely effective. There's a lot of people who are still doing it and having wild success, right? But if I tried to live launch right now because it works, it wouldn't work for me because it's out of alignment. I don't want to do that. That doesn't feel good in my body. That's not inspired to me. So that's when I say inspired action. Again, people get stuck here because there's a lot of other people telling you just do what I did and you can have what I have. And that is not true at all. And evidence of that is that A, you've been doing what other people told you to do and it's not working for you. Or B, you have evidence of 10 people in one industry being wildly successful, all doing 10 different things. It means that that person's blueprint wasn't the secret sauce. Their identity and their energy is the secret sauce, right? So if you are trying to deploy a strategy that is not aligned with your identity and that is not aligned with what you want, that's why it's not working for you. Okay, so this is why the action piece comes in. So action is required because we're humans and we chose to have a 3D experience, right? You chose, whether you believe this or not, right? I always say that you're a soul in a physical body. You're a spiritual being in a physical body. You're a energetic being in a spiritual body or in a physical body. Whatever you believe is fine. But like, part of you chose to be here and have this human experience. And part of the human experience is action, going to work, doing the things, whatever that looks like. You just don't have to work yourself into the ground. You don't have to torture yourself. You don't have to do shit you hate, right? I think that's what most people are mixing. Yes, you have to work. Like right now, this is work, right? This is work sitting here recording. You're like, I could do this all fucking day. I love this, teaching this, talking about this, interacting, creating content. Like this is my jam all day, every day, and still feel energetic as all get out, right? But we have the belief is if I'm not suffering, if it's not hard, if I don't hate it, it's not effective, which is why most people struggle with the inspired action part of this. Okay. So I want you to really spend some time thinking about, again, what are my thoughts? What am I thinking about A, my ability to create, and then B, the thing I'm trying to create, myself, right? Of course, do I see myself? Am I wearing the identity of creator, right? And then we have to think about how are we feeling and are we letting our feelings run the show? Or are we realizing that we're the one driving our feelings? And then finally, we have to take a look at action. Is the action I'm taking aligned? Does it feel good? Is it something that I want, need, desire? And does it feel like a good part of my plan? Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple of tools before we wrap up here today. One that I think has really changed my life and I've discovered somewhat recently is breathwork. Breathwork, I think, is really good for anybody with a really busy mind because we've all been told we need to meditate. I'm going to tell you need to meditate, but meditating is challenging when your nervous system is shot. And again, if you are a highly successful, fast-moving human, it is very likely that your nervous system is shot, right? You are in fight or flight all the time because you're constant in stress and anxiety, that rushing, got to get it done, got to do more. And then when we're not doing, we're thinking about why isn't it good enough? Why isn't it done? What isn't working? What am I going to do? How do I figure this out? Right? Like your nervous system is in fight or flight all of the time. And so it is challenging to think about your thoughts, to be aware of your thoughts and to be mindful of your feelings when your nervous system is shot. So for me, breath work has been really amazing for that because it's like active meditation, right? Like I'm actively sitting and being intentional, but because there's things to do and somebody's telling me what to do in my ears. And guys, I literally follow a guy on Patreon and send him $15 a month. Like I'm not, there are breathwork practitioners. If that's your jam, find that. That's awesome. But for me, breathwork was such a game changer in really learning how to do this. Okay. And really learning how do I get to a point where I can catch and be aware of my thoughts and redirect them before I'm all the way spiraled down a rabbit hole. Okay. That's a really great one. Gratitude, guys. Gratitude. This is one that I used to think was so like just trite. It's like, of course I'm grateful for my life, but like, meh, that's not it. Right. Gratitude is really, truly understanding like we're miracles, man. Like think about it. First of all, we're on like a rock floating through space, right? Which is bananas. You have to think about the miracle of science that we're even born. Like I have kids, right? I created 2 of them, like that is just such an effing miracle that I'm even just sitting here breathing, right? Not to mention if you have a car to drive and a house to live in and food in your fridge and clothes in your closet, you are so much farther along than so many people in this world. And if you live in a privileged part of the world, you might not see as much of that. But when you really think about it and look at the population of this world, the fact that you have those things alone makes you so unbelievably lucky. And we never take the time to be grateful for those things because they don't seem like that big of a deal because they are things that we actually have every day. But learning to really be grateful for that car that you have, right? Even if you don't love it, be grateful for it. It gets you from point A to point B. It's safe. It, whatever it is that it does for you, right? Like same thing with your home. It might not be in the neighborhood that you want to live in, but do you have a home? Does it have heat? Does it have air conditioning? Does it keep you safe? Do you have a warm bed to sleep in? Like those are things to be so grateful for. One of my things I love to do, guys, one of my favorite like kind of ways to get the gratitude ball rolling is when I'm driving is it's just so funny because I honestly think I don't know what people think about me when they drive past me. They probably think I'm crazy. I hope they think I'm talking on the phone. But if I'm in the car by myself, I have my radio turned up and I am telling, like, just going through what Abraham Hicks would call a rampage, right? Just an absolute rampage of how grateful I am for this car. Oh my gosh, I love this car. This car is so amazing. I know when I bought this car, it was such a big deal. And I'm so glad that I bought this car. And it's been on so many road trips and it's taken us on so many adventures. And I love that it has heated seats. And I love that the sound system is amazing. And my favorite thing to do in the summer is to open the sunroof and roll down the windows and drive down my car. And I'm just so darn grateful for this car. And then I'm driving through my neighborhood and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for this neighborhood. I love the school that my kids go to. And I love that the friends that they're making. And I love that my neighbors are this, that, and the other thing. Like, just go. Like, start thinking about it. Like, I love that I have a home to live in. I love that I turn the water on in my house and that it comes out and it comes out clean and I can drink it and I can clean my body and I can clean my clothes and I can clean my kids in that. Like, I love that. I love that I have a job or a career or a business. Like, how amazing is it that I literally get paid? For me, I get paid to show up and talk to people. Like, how incredible is that? Like, I'm just giving you an example. You're gonna have to find your own story, but spend some time thinking about like how effing incredible your life is today. If nothing changed in your life would still be so incredibly abundant. So spending some time thinking about it and celebrating it, because we rarely do that. We spend a lot of time thinking about the things that we don't have and what we haven't achieved and where we aren't. We really don't spend enough time thinking about how effing lucky we truly are. And so if you can regulate your nervous system, for me, breath work worked. Google it. There's a lot of different ways to regulate your nervous system. Breath work is just what's working for me currently. I'm sure it will change. And when it does, I'll tell you guys about it, right? But gratitude, like spending a lot of time just thinking about it. Like when I get ready in the morning, right? I think about how grateful I am that the kids are finally at an age that I can get ready by myself, right? Like I love doing my makeup and I think about how grateful I am for my body and how strong I am and how powerful I am. And I love that I'm getting back, invigorating to work out again. And I'm so grateful for my natural curls, my like just on and on and on, like finding the ways to be grateful. And you'll find that the more things you look for to be grateful, the more things you will be grateful for, and the more good things will happen for you. Because going back to the law of vibration, and the law of attraction, the more gratitude we put out, the more appreciation we have for the things we have, the more that we get back. And again, this is one that gets so easily dismissed because it feels so easy. Like just driving around in your car, rampaging and talking about how effing amazing and miraculous it is that you're alive and that your spouse is alive and your kids are alive and that there's money in your bank account and food in your fridge. Like, holy cow, that's amazing, right? And even if you don't have those things, most of the people in my world do, God bless y'all. But if you don't, right, even the fact that you're alive, right, that you can walk, that there's air in your lungs, that the sky is blue, that there's this beautiful sun in the sky and you can feel it on your skin, like you can find anything to be grateful for. Looking around, I'm looking out my window right now for those of you watching this on video, right? Like, do you see trees? Do you see grass? Do you see, I don't know, fancy cars that you can be grateful for? Anything that you can find in that moment to focus on that makes you feel good is going to pull you in the right direction, okay? So what have we talked about as far as tools? We talked about breath work. We talked about gratitude. Those are the two that work best for me. I don't like to overcomplicate it. And like I said, as my tools change, what they will, because we're all on a journey, I'll tell you what they are. But those are the two that I use most frequently that I find have been most powerful. Okay. I hope so much that this was helpful. So I'm just going to recap for you a little bit. First and foremost, grace and love for yourself. If you have been on this journey, I don't care if you've been on it for 2 minutes, 2 years, or 20 years, grace and love, right? Be kind to yourself. Okay. Own your ownership. Own your identity as creator. That is the first sale you have to make, my friend, is a sale to yourself that I'm the one creating my reality, right? From there, it's the alignment of your thoughts, feelings, and actions, and really being mindful of what is that conversation that you're having all of the time. Regulate your nervous system, find some gratitude, okay? That is how you're going to do it. If the work isn't working for you, this episode is going to be your best friend. I want you to listen to it over and over and over again and really start asking yourself the question, am I wearing the identity of creator? Am I showing up as the creator of my reality? Am I acting like the creator of my reality? If everything I wanted was done, if I'm really as powerful as that Ryan girl says that I am I acting that way? And the way that you know is, what am I thinking about? Because I promise you, the creator version of you doesn't think, I don't know if this is working. She doesn't do that. Okay. Okay. Her feelings don't drive That's real important, right? And she shows up powerfully. She doesn't do shit she hates. She doesn't say yes when she wants to say no. She doesn't work with clients she doesn't want to. She doesn't underprice her services. She doesn't bitch, moan, and complain to everybody that will listen because, again, creator of her reality, we don't do that, right? So be honest with yourself. Are you thinking like the creator? Are you being mindful of your feelings? And are you showing up and acting like it is done? Because if you're not doing those things, then it's not the work that doesn't work. It's the fact that you're not doing the work. And again, final time I'll say this before we wrap up, because I am really anti-pain point marketing in this point in my career. I did a lot of it, so no judgment. But once I started doing this work, I realized that was not what I wanted. I didn't want to manipulate people into working with me. So I did not record this episode with the point of making you feel like shit. So you hired me. I recorded this episode because I have been there before and I have felt so helpless and so scared and so frustrated by this before that I really wanted to record an episode that was real and honest and raw and really told you like this is it. This is what nobody is telling you because they don't want to tell you that it can feel hard sometimes, right? Because if we told you how hard it was, would people do the work? I don't know. I've never been one to shy away from that. I've always been one to be really effing honest. Like if and when we get an opportunity to work together, there's going to be times it's uncomfortable. My clients cry almost every call. I don't know if I should be proud of that, but doing the inner work is challenging because we're not taught how to do it, right? So I just want to end this show with that is just that this is not coming from a place of shame. This is not coming from a place of judgment. This is coming from a place of, I don't tell you the real, honest fucking truth why you don't have what you want, then you're going to continue to stay stuck, and that is not okay with me. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Uncensored Self Podcast. If you're walking away with a new perspective, some fresh inspiration, or the push you needed to show up as your uncensored self, I'd love to hear about it. Share this episode, leave a review, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember, success isn't about following somebody else's rules. It's about owning who you are, deciding what you want, and going after it unapologetically. Until next time, keep leading, keep creating, and stay uncensored.